Just let him sort of speak to us, and we'll see how similar it is, and we can ask him questions as well, because I believe that we could actually learn, a lot from them. Thanks, Achik, for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Duncan. And it's like deja vu for me. It strikes me the same thing. I think, as you guys know, in our civil war, because of the oppression from the northerners, the Islamic North, to try to convert us southerners into Islam. So we fought from 1983 till 2005. The civil war ended. And then we ended up splitting into two countries, a Muslim North and a Southern Christian state. And what happened through the war is, they used to kidnap our babies too and our children. And they would take them to madrasas, Islamic schools. And then in those schools, all they would read is the Quran 24/7, and they would radicalize them. I don't know if that's happening in Nigeria, but that was state-sponsored. It was sponsored by the North Sudanese government. So you had militias. The militia was called the Janjaweed. And the Janjaweed operated mainly in Darfur, the Darfur region. And that was supported by the government of North Sudan. So it kind of reminds me like Boko Haram. I'm fully convinced they're supported by the federal government of Nigeria too. Like the Janjaweed was supported by the government of Sudan. And they actually perpetrated the Darfur genocide. If you guys don't know about it, you should Google it. From 2003 to 2006, roughly 500 to 600,000 Darfurians were killed, and then North Sudanese people. And mainly they were the black African one, not the Muslim Darfurians. And around 50,000 women were raped and mutilated. It's one of the worst crimes in the continent. And when we were liberating our country, we found that fighting the northern government, we're getting oppressed simply because we're not Muslims and we're black Africans. Most of us are Christians or animists or traditional religion, like we don't believe in the most, or atheists. And that oppression didn't stop until we started fighting. So from 56 till 83, we kept asking the northern government, please do something about this oppression. And then finally we had enough and decided to have a civil war and break the country in two. And that's what I'm worried that's going to end up happening in Nigeria, because I'm getting sick of it watching it, because I can't imagine what you guys are feeling. And we went through that, and it was a very vicious, bloody war. We lost 3 million people to gain independence. We have 6 million people overseas in the diaspora. Don't forget, there's only 13 million South Sudanese here, and there's about 44 million North Sudanese on the top. And what is happening now in the Sudan, they're having their own civil war between the different Islamic militias. And we have 1 million refugees from the north in our border right now that we have to feed and look after. We're getting aid from the United Nations and the United States to deal with it. But when I look at this situation that's happening in Nigeria, I have a really terrible, terrible feeling. This is going to lead to a civil war, which I don't want it to happen, because there's only so long Southern Christians can handle this oppression in Nigeria before they get fed up and decide to do something about it. And I don't believe your government, ever since Goodluck Jonathan, this Islamic government that you have in Nigeria, I generally believe they're going to try to Islamicize Nigeria, using through government forces and using corporate power and the wealth from the oil-rich South. And I think their plan is to systematically use this to make sure there's a permanent Islam majority so they can never lose government. Because the second they get a permanent Islam majority, it's all over for the Christians in the South. You can't vote them out. You can't fight them out. They have the army. They have the military. They have all of the taxes that are going to fund their areas. And they have the poorest areas. So what doesn't make sense is these terrorist organizations that are going around in your country, there is no way they'd be going around without the full cooperation and support by the federal Nigerian government. And this is what I think. There is no way they'd be let. How can Boko Haram get all these weapons, get all these militias, kidnap kids, and you can't rescue these children? The only reason they're not rescued is because the government doesn't want to rescue them. They simply don't care. And I think we went through the same thing when they were kidnapping and killing our children and our people, until we fought and we got fed up by this. And that's why we're two different independent states. So I have this sick feeling in my stomach what's happening in Nigeria, like I've been through it before. And that's why I pray for you guys. So hopefully you guys deal it well soon. Hopefully it doesn't have to come to a civil war, because that's really nasty and vicious stuff. But the Christians in the South are going to get sick of it. My warning is, if they get a permanent Islamic majority government, there's nothing you can do about it, honestly. That's the saddest part. When you get to the stage you can't vote these guys out, you're doomed. I'm sorry to say. That happened to me and my people. And we had no choice, because we couldn't vote them out. We were too small. They had the military. They had the economy, everything. So I'm thinking about you guys. Hopefully they're sorted soon. But I generally believe the Nigerian government is the one doing this. And they're doing it. They've given these militias the green light to do this, and that's why none of them is being held accountable, because they simply don't want to. And I think that's a sad truth. Thank you.
Sheikh, I have a question for you.
Should I continue with the questions?
When you guys, prior to your...
Should I continue with the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Or civil war, were they dividing, like finding ways to divide the South? You know, those of you in the South, like
they
tribes and
yeah, they divided us between Nuer and the Dinka. So the Dinka are the majority, which are my people. The Nuer are like, so us Dinka were about 30%, the Nuer about 15%. And then we have another 62 tribes. And they divided us into Dor, Nuer, Dinka, and we were fighting each other before we ever fought them. We only became united in 1983. So from 1956 till 1983, us black tribes in the southern part of Sudan, we were fighting each other. And because of the divisions that came from the federal government, so they divided us up in certain areas. So the west is the Barkazal area, the east is the Nuer area, and the north is the Nuer area, and the south is the more like Islamic area in Juba. So if you go to our capital, Juba, a lot of people speak Juba Arabic. And the reason is because the government up north wanted to make Arabic as an official language of the southern Christians. Because if they make Arabic as an official language, we become Arabized. So then we start, pretty much, it takes away our traditional language and our culture. They essentially try to Arabize all of the people in the southern of Sudan, like they have in the north. Like when you go to North Sudan, they're like Algerians and Moroccans and stuff. They're Muslim, they speak Arabic and stuff. That's what they wanted to do till the whole Sudan. They essentially divided us, they conquered us, and then eventually we had a leader that came in, Dr. John Garang. He essentially told the blacks in the south, listen, we have to come together or they're going to kill us all. And that only came in 1983 when we declared our movement, the Sudanese People Liberation Army. It was like a guerrilla movement. And then we fought, and then we eventually won. But even till today, we're divided. So the Nuer and the Dinka in 2013, they caused a civil war in my country, but we ended that pretty quickly. But even till today, those tribal lines that have divided us against are so hard to break apart. Like tribal tensions in my country are so bad right now because of what they did of generations of brainwashing and just things like even marrying between different tribes it's incredibly difficult because of the way they made us see each other since the founding of our country. And we're just trying to get through those tribal lines even till today. So it leaves deep wounds. I don't know if they've divided you guys in Nigeria and your tribe, but they really did a number on us.
That's why I asked you that question, because like everything you're saying, it's like I'm watching a movie while you're saying it, because this is our reality right now.
Now you know why I brought him.
Wow. We went through the exact same thing. Wow. It's not so different.
It's horrible, Ashchik. It's never been this horrible, but right now it's horrible. And especially among the two tribes, that's kind of like everybody has always known, like these people are literally in love with each other. The intermarriage is crazy. But to find even men who have like their wives from this other tribe will spew the worst, oh my God, the worst, the most horrible rhetorics, divisive rhetorics that you'd wonder, how is he living with his wife and he has the heart, the stomach to say, even those of them who have children. Oh God, Achik, I don't know what to say.
It's the same thing. Like my uncle, he's Dinka, his wife is Dor, and he has children that are Dor, and he speaks shit about Dor 24/7, and I don't understand how his children with her. Because he thinks he's superior because he's Dinka. And that's the way he was raised to think. And he has children with her. He's married to her. And he talks shit like that to the children all the time. And I just say this is the level of brainwashing. For example, I myself as a Dinka, I could never date a Nuer girl. Like, if I wanted to, it'd be so difficult because my parents would be like, no, absolutely not happening. They're not our people. This is the type of brainwashing would happen. Or if I wanted to date a Dor girl or something else, it would just be like a nuclear bomb went off in my household. This is the amount of anti-tribalism that is in my parents' generation. Like, I like to think I'm not tribal, and I do my best not to be. But the amount of brainwashing that I have to survive as an individual coming from the people that are close to me, like the elders in the community and stuff. It's simply horrific. And this tribal thing is the thing that's really, they've done a number of that. And this came from the northern Islamists that did this to us. So right now we even have to heal between each other's tribes. Like, I'm not tribalist. Like, if you're South Sudanese, you're South Sudanese, you're my people. I don't care. I was never raised like that. But this local tribalism is very, very hard, and I think it's the hardest thing to get rid of, because we can never unite. We united against the Islamist North because they were killing us, but between each other now in the country, it's so divided. It's a segregated country. It's like certain regions you only have Dinka, certain regions you have Nuer, certain regions you have Dor. It's like an ethnic federation. It's not the same like Nigeria. It's like an ethnic federation, like certain regions are one tribe and another tribe. Because we have that same problem here, and it's a big, big problem.
Oh my goodness.
We don't live together.
Wow. Like, Dinka, like, I don't even know what to say.
Yes. Did I just say you had a question? I'm trying to, I'm telling you, if you listen to it, it's like, hold on. Isn't that what is going on in Nigeria? You know? And you can see what he's saying, where even though that North Sudan cut off, as soon as they removed South Sudan, they can no longer say, oh, is it because these people are not Muslims, these people are not our tribe? What happens? They started fighting with each other. And that's what would happen in northern Nigeria as well, because there is a section of the Muslims that are not jihadists like these people. So even if they ended up splitting Nigeria, they will still end up in another war. Archie, do you have a question for him?
I was just going to say that... Oh, sorry. Go on, Archie.
No, go on. Let me not cut your trend of thought.
I was going to say, when we left the North Sudan, and don't forget, they're all Muslim in North Sudan. Now they're having the worst civil war they've ever had in their own country. And they're all Muslims. There's no Christians there. We're not there anymore. And they're killing each other. Like, we're not there. So the southern Christians that they wanted to brainwash and convert to Islam, we're gone. We have our own country. And what did? They start shooting each other. There's been like over 800,000 killed by each other. There's about 4 million refugees, 1 million of them. We have to look at our border. And this is Muslims killing Muslims in the north. It has nothing to do with South Sudanese Christians. We're no longer part of the country. So if that could happen in Nigeria, let's say they split from the north are probably going to fight themselves, even if you're not there, you know? It's crazy.
The thing is, sorry to like burst in, the thing is the north does not actually comprise of just Muslims. North is 50-50, 50% Muslims, 50% Christians. So this it can't even work. That's the simple truth. Excuse me. We have 50% of Muslims in the north, 50% of Christians. I'm a Muslim. I'm from the Middle Belt. But if for some crazy reasons we're saying that we're going to have, God forbid, a different country for the north, like Middle Belt is definitely going to fall into north. Because they call it North Central. And that's the issue we're having, calling Middle Belt North Central. So 50% of us, I'm talking 50% of people living in the Middle Belt are Muslims, 50% are Christians. And even in the far north, northeast and north, if you go to the northeastern part of the country, we have lots of Christians, maybe 40 to 60 or 45 to 55%. So it is not even... It's unimaginable. There will be another civil war happening in the north itself if they have their own country.
But so this is why they know this. This is why they're rapidly displacing you guys.
Hey, Lami,
They cannot, oh.
Southern Kaduna.
They cannot, oh.
You know there is mostly Southern Kaduna that is a Christian, right? Now think about it. Where have most of the attacks been? Southern Kaduna. Because that's where the Kafanchan people and stuff. That's the Christian part of Kaduna, right?
And we just play too.
That's what they're doing. Gradually removing the Christians they know are there because they want that land. Archie, I'm going to keep you here for a little bit. Archie, you can ask a new question now.
Archie, thank you very much for coming on the space and sharing your perspective. Some of those things you said probably would have been very, very hurried to release. So I understand how it can be. Thank you very much. I have a question, but I will first of all have to just drop a little bit of history so you understand. Like the ladies said, every single thing you've explained has happened in Nigeria already, which will bet my question. But before I ask my question, I have worked with a couple of Sudanese, and just up till recently, I never knew Sudan was not an Arab nation. Do you understand? Because every single Sudani I've come across is very, very Arab-centric in nature. Do you understand? So we have those Arabic names like Hanan, Nihal, and the rest of them, Hisham, and these are people I've worked with. Do you get? So I felt so until I had to go and read a little bit about your country's history and found out that the Arabs busted into your country, I think in the 12th or 13th century, if I am not mistaken, and the invasion started from there, which is quite similar to what the Fulanis did to Nigeria, because like Lamin has described, northern Nigeria was predominantly Hausa land until the Fulanis busted into the country, I think sometime in the 14th century from Senegal, and pushed in, and the invasion started, and we have what we have today. My question, yes, another historical perspective to note for everybody who's listening and is Nigerian, is the fact that we have the highest population of Nigerians in diaspora in Sudan. It is not a mistake that Nigeria is the way it is. Our highest population of Nigerians in diaspora, any country in the world, is domiciled in Sudan, predominantly northern Sudan.
Are you kidding? Why?
Yes,
What are they doing there?
Yes, we have 5% of Nigeria's population in northern Sudan. 5%. I think
it's telling the truth. It's correct.
About 10 million. So once you see some things happen in Nigeria, it's not coincidental. It's by design. There is a roadmap. It has been moved.
I'm in as much shock as you. What?
Never heard that before.
It's being replicated. So you have most Nigerians in Sudan than, in fact, the whole of the West, for starters. So, but what my concern is I check with the history you've seen, with the fact that you now, have the understanding that Nigeria is as polarized as Sudan was until you guys took a step back. If you were given, because I've asked myself this question and I don't have an answer to it, if you were given a bird's eye view and you were sent back in time to forestall something of the nature of, the crisis and the genocide that happened to your people that birthed that, separation, if you were given the task of taking a decision that would have forestalled that and still bettered the lot of your country, because I still feel the Hausas in northern Nigeria, the southern Kadunas, some of those indigenous tribes in northern Nigeria are still as Nigerian as I am Nigerian, irrespective of what, the invasion has happened in northern Nigeria. If I were to be given a chance, and I feel a military coup, people keep talking about military coup. A military coup is an easy out. When you want to have a breakup and someone says, let's separate, I think that's even an easy out. And at this point, I don't think I pray that we are in that position where we can even have that option. But actually, to you, if you were given that position to take that decision, what would be your advice to your people to find a way to forestall that genocide and get your country the liberation it needs? Because at this point, you're talking to me in Nigeria, you're talking to Lamin in Nigeria. We are at the brink of that confusion. Every single thing is sponsored by states, right? Someone was talking on this space. They are going to go and pay ransom from Nigerian Naira very soon to these terrorists that kidnap these children. They will release maybe 220 or 30 or 50, and they'll count it as a win against terrorism. They will recycle it's just a conundrum on its own. Advise us if you are not in the conundrum, in the confusion that I am, what would you take as a decision? Or what would you advise Nigerians to do at this point to save what is already a doomsday in waiting?
My answer is, my leaders at the time, the Black African leaders in my country, Dr. John Garang and stuff, they had discussions with the Northern Arab people, and he actually didn't want an independent South Sudan when he started. He said he wants autonomy for his people in the region, for us not to be attacked, for us to live the lives that we want to do, and for us not to be invaded and forced. So his early criteria was, please stop attacking us. We're all Sudanese people. He believed this, that we're all Sudanese people. There's nothing differences. But every time he tried to negotiate with them, They just wouldn't listen. And what really happened at the end of the day is a coup happened. So so everything was going okay, but a coup happened. Umar al-Bashir took power by force in the 80s, and he declared Sudan as an Islamic republic. That's what triggered the civil war. When he declared Sudan an Islamic republic, all of the Sudan, it triggered the civil war. My advice would be, if you have leaders and you can talk to these leaders and something, they have to advocate for you. Do you have leaders that advocate for the Hausa, leaders that advocate for the other people that are getting attacked? Because those leaders have to step up and say something. Because if they don't, and they let this government keep doing what they're doing, that's how this war is going to happen. Your leaders need to step up before it's too late. Right now, these kids that have been kidnapped, you need prominent leaders in the federal government, prominent leaders of these people to speak up, to say this is not okay, to do something about it, because people are going to get fed up. It's only a matter of time before people are fed up and actually pick up a gun and do something about it. And the only reason that happens is because their leaders failed them. If your leaders fail you in stopping these kidnapping, these murders and stuff, you're going to get people in Nigeria, they're going to say, F it, I'm going to do something about it. And a war will happen. But before that war happens, you need to have your spokespeople actually speak up for your voice, because you guys are speaking out. And I don't hear any prominent leaders in Nigeria speaking out. And that worries me. Where are these leaders speaking on behalf of these children, demanding these children come home? They have to be there, because if they're not there, the victims of these kidnapping and these children, they're going to say, you know what, our leaders are absolutely useless. We're going to take matters to our own hands. The reason people take matters to our own hands, because law enforcement have failed. The people that are supposed to protect you are not protecting you. And when that breaks down and the people that you trust to protect you are not protecting you any longer, my advice would be to reach out to these people before something really horrific does happen. Because if they don't speak up now and you feel like you don't have any leadership, you don't believe in your government is corrupt, the only way to do it is to get rid of that government. And it has to happen before it's too late. What I was talking to my father is a lieutenant general in the South Sudanese Armed Forces. He joined the army at 14 when the Civil War started. And he's fought through the army, and today he's a lieutenant general. I asked him about the war, if it could have been prevented. He said yes, if we had competent leadership. But back then in South Sudan, we didn't have any leaders that would stood up for us. And every time our people got killed, the average people like myself and other people decided, you know what, we're going to join the military and we're going to fight, because I'm sick of my people dying. You know, and it's only a matter of time. When I join, you get sick of your people dying. And if you see people dying enough, you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to join up too, and I'm going to fight for my people. My father told me if he had competent leadership, he would have never had to join the army, because the war would have been avoided. It only happens when you have a lack of leadership or weak leadership. And in Nigeria, for that to stop happening, this is just my personal opinion, the people that are supposed to look after you have to say something, and they have to do something about it, because you guys are going to get fed up. And I can hear from your voice that you're already fed up. And the next step after getting fed up is actually doing something about it, not just talking about it. And I hope it doesn't get to that stage. I hope it's a really difficult question to answer, Archie. But I just hope it doesn't get to the place where the people that are getting attacked in Nigeria start shooting back. Because when they start shooting back, they're not going to stop shooting back until they're free and they're safe. That's how it's going to go, honestly. And I hope it doesn't happen, because I've been to Nigeria. It's a fantastic country, unbelievable people, you know. Smart people. Nigeria should be a world superpower, honest to God. I believe this on my heart and soul. Smart people. But the corruption, this is what's the problem. The corruption has to be dealt with. Because, Archie, if this doesn't stop and the people that are supposed to look after you don't say anything, it's going to become a war, because people have to protect their families. That's a sad aspect of life, honestly. Thanks. Hope I answered it.
Oh, man.
My brother, thank you very much for doing justice to it. We don't have anybody. So, over to you, Dunke.
Oh, man. I would pause.